virus. Now, he has been at home over the weekend, didn't feel well on Sunday, and then received the diagnosis a short time ago. He is at home resting comfortably. He said he's part of the 20% who are diagnosed with the coronavirus that doesn't have a cough, that doesn't have fever. He's going to be quarantined in his home in New Orleans through this weekend. And he's already feeling better, like I said, without the fever. But when he wasn't feeling well on Sunday, he wound up taking the coronavirus test on Monday, and it came back positive today. And the reason that he came out with it is because he wants to send a message to all the people out there, especially the young people, that they need to be listening to the experts, that they need to be paying attention here, that they need to stay at home and practice social distancing and do the right thing, that there's a number of people at risk. And look, we've seen this in the other aspects of our society. It was one thing, Ryan, when Tom Hanks came out with his wife, Rita Wilson, and said that he was diagnosed. And all of a sudden, people began to take notice of it. And then Rudy Gobert in basketball became the first NBA player known to be diagnosed with the coronavirus. And now Sean Payton has stepped forward in the NFL world because he wants to bring attention to it and make sure that people are behaving responsibly and doing the right thing here.
And Adam, when you hear about someone getting a positive test, especially in the world of sports these days, our thoughts not only go to that person, but the people that they were around. So let me ask you about the Saints. Is there any sense at this point that they might test others within the organization because of Sean Payton's positive test?
It is logical. Listen, he was at a racetrack in Arkansas about 5 days ago, but he has not been in the Saints training facility at all this week. And he didn't start feeling poorly until Sunday. Now, look, he could have been carrying the virus. No one knows when he got it. But he has not been in the Saints training facility this week. Now, I will say this too, Ryan. There have been other teams that told the NFL that there would be teams at a disadvantage if members of the organization contracted the coronavirus here during free agency when the new league year was starting. And this was another reason why teams wanted to push back the start of the league year. I would imagine there'll be testing, if it's available, in the Saints facility. But here's the issue. Sean Payton said that it has become a big deal in Louisiana, where Mardi Gras was. A lot of people were infected. It's one of the more infected states right now. And he believes a lot of it traces back to Mardi Gras. And again, he's trying to send a message. He doesn't know when he got it. He's unaware of that. For everyone to act responsibly. I'm sure there'll be testing that goes on within the Saints organization. He hasn't been there in the building this week. He's been home resting because he has not felt well. He's been fatigued. But obviously, this is a new frontier for everybody, especially people in the NFL. And Sean Payton and the Saints will now figure out exactly how to attack this.
And then the question, Adam, goes to the NFL. When you look at something like this, you mentioned the talk of teams talking about pushing back the league year. Has there been any response from the NFL yet about this, and what potentially might they do?
Well, Ron, I don't believe the NFL realized this at the time. Literally, it just happened a short time ago. And so this is going to send reverberations around the NFL world. And Sean Payton is not going to be the first person that is diagnosed with the virus in the NFL world. We know how quickly this is spreading throughout our world and our country and certain parts of the region. And like I said, Louisiana is one of the harder hit areas. And obviously, at some point in time, Sean Payton contracted the virus. The NFL has put into place a number of measures already, Ryan. It's basically postponed, if not suspended, all the off-season training activities that would have been taking place the first week in April. It's canceled the fan events in Las Vegas so that the NFL knows the draft will be the third week in April. But we don't know yet whether it'll be in Vegas, which I can't imagine, or whether ESPN will be broadcasting the draft from ESPN while they have the top prospects at the NFL. The league is adjusting to this right now. We have delays in player contracts, for instance, with Tom Brady being in New York this morning trying to arrange an independent doctor in which to take a physical to get that Buccaneers contract approved. It's impacting all facets of the NFL world. NFL teams, I think, will have a hard time connecting this offseason. It wouldn't surprise me if teams don't gather together for on-field activities until maybe training camp. That's a distinct possibility at this point in time with all the uncertainty facing the world. And so when Sean Payton comes out today and tells ESPN that he's tested positive for the coronavirus, this becomes the latest example of yet another unexpected challenge that the NFL is now going to have to deal with. He's the first person to contract it that we know about. He will not be the last person to contract this, sadly. And he wants this contained. Everybody wants this contained. And it's up to everybody to do their part in trying to stop it.
And Adam, just want to bring it back to Sean Payton. You mentioned that he's resting comfortably. I want to ask you, what did he sound like with you on the phone? And also, is there concern that he has for his family having to, in many ways, self-quarantine at a time when everybody is very concerned about this really unknown virus?
Yeah, right. He sounded upbeat. He sounded good. He sounded like he was ready to go to work today. And again, I think he feels fortunate that he doesn't have that cough, doesn't have the fever, and is not bedridden and is not being basically in as bad a physical shape as many people who are fighting the virus. He sounded good. He sounded upbeat. He's said he's going to have a full recovery here, completely optimistic, is not concerned about the impact and the effects of the coronavirus. Again, he sounded as good as a person can sound. He was upbeat, he was positive, he was optimistic, and I think he wants everyone to know that together, if everybody acts responsibly, behaves responsibly, does the right thing, that he believes that our country is going to beat this.
Adam, you know, you have a situation like this going on in our country, and Sean Payton mentioning to you the message, we have to practice social distancing and all that. What message do you believe the NFL now has to put out there, given that this has happened to Sean Payton, to make sure they're matching the same message that so many in the country are trying to put out there as well?
Well, Ryan, I think that's part of the reason that people were so disturbed that free agency and the league year were taking place this week, because so many people are facing medical crises and emergencies. I spoke to one executive in San Francisco today who's doing all his business from home, shelter in place out in the Bay Area. And he was telling me how when he was on the phone this week, when they're negotiating contracts, trades, all those things, he's on the phone, he's in his house, he's pacing. And according to his iPhone, he walked 12 miles and took 27,000 steps. Now, would he be doing that in his office? I don't know. But everybody's adjusting to a new world. The NFL is a part of that right now, right, where they have to adapt. And there were people that were concerned about what effect this virus would have on everybody. And one of the reasons that the NFLPA didn't want to push this back this week, the start of the league year, is because they were not convinced that we would be in a better place 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now. They thought this might be as good as it is for quite some time. And so that's why they started the league year. But the NFL put into place some rules it had to. It basically, like I said, canceled the organized team training activities during the offseason. Players are not allowed in the facilities. Teams are shutting down their facilities. And really, if there are people in the buildings at all, it's only a select few. I spoke to one head coach this afternoon. He was on his way home from the building, away from work. Nobody was there. The Saints building, very, very few people there. That's the case at buildings all across the NFL right now, despite the fact that there's a flurry of activity going on with every team in the league.
Yeah, you know, hindsight's 2020, but do you think they look at the situation right now and have regrets about not pushing that back? You mentioned that they thought, hey, would it be any better a couple weeks later, but would they have regrets about that, you think?
Well, it's hard to say that, Ryan. Everybody would have a different opinion. Again, coming into this week, there were some people that were furious and enraged that the NFL was going forward with free agency at one of the most critical times in our country's history. They said, how could we, as a league, take doctors away to do physicals? How could we focus on anything else other than all the people that need help? There were people that were upset about the NFLPA not basically agreeing to change the rules, though D. Smith denied that. There were people that were upset that Roger Goodell, as the commissioner of the NFL, didn't step in no matter what the NFLPA said. And with this being the rule and it having to be collectively bargained, say, we don't care what the situation is. We, as a country, need to get this straightened out, and we're not going to have the start of the league year. But it went on. And I will say, maybe, I've heard from some people that they think it's provided just a little bit of a momentary diversion at certain moments during the week. Now, again, what's going on in the sports world pales in comparison. And it's completely insignificant and meaningless. But again, I think some people have found some comfort. They go to sports to find comfort. And maybe in this particular case, free agency has distracted them for just a few minutes to take them out of all the craziness that's going on in the real world.
So then, if I'm a player, Adam, I might be hearing this news and saying, I know a lot of people aren't at the facility right now, but in a couple of weeks, if everything proceeds as planned, I might be expected to gather and do these kinds of things that could lead to exposure to the virus. So what do you think that players and the Players Association hearing this news right now think at this point?
Well, Ryan, I don't think they needed to hear this news to recognize that that possibility existed. But like I said to you, it became more real when a public face like Tom Hanks comes out and admits that he and his wife tested positive. It becomes more public when somebody like Rudy Gobert comes out and says he tested positive. And I think that's why Sean Payton stepped forward today, because he doesn't want a stigma attached. He wants people fighting this and doing the right thing and behaving responsibly. And players, if they get the chance to go back to facilities, which I don't think they will,